We will now have the opening of our community input meeting. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak. And we have quite a number of speakers, so we will adhere to our 3 minutes. Thank you. I would like to know from the board members if they are in agreement with the 3 minutes or whatever. The board
Motion.
members in agreement with 3 minutes?
Just consent? Okay.
It is the consensus of the board that we will adhere to the 3 minutes. So at this time, the clerk will be calling the names. Thank you.
This is an opportunity for the school board, for the public to make comments to the school board relative to the proposed school schedule change and/or rezoning. The school board will listen to your comments but will not respond to statements or questions at this time. Your comments may only be regarding these topics and may not be about or directed to any specific person or in a personal attack or derogatory manner. As stated, each person will have 3 minutes to make their comments. If you are unable to complete your comments within that time, you are welcome to submit them in writing to me and I will share them with the board members. I will provide you with a 30-second warning to allow you time to close out your statements. As each person comes to the podium to speak, even though you may have signed up in the back, please state your name and your home address. Thank you. First speaker is James Yunker.
Good evening. I have handouts for the board members to review while I make my statement. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is James Yunker. I live at 5320 Quaker Drive here in the city of Suffolk. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm a father with 2 children currently enrolled in Suffolk Public Schools. The reason I'm here is in regards to the proposed citywide school redistricting plan, specifically the Pioneer and Booker T. Washington elementary school zones. The handouts you have received contains maps of the current proposed school zones, as well as maps suggesting changes for Pioneer and Booker T. Washington school zone. My family's preference would be for you to only rezone the northern school zones. However, in reviewing the current school zones for Pioneer and Booker T, I do see rooms for improvement. The proposed school zone line for Pioneer and Booker T. Washington on page 2 and 3 of the handouts I handed appears to be randomly drawn and does not establish continuous attendance zones using established roadways and geographical features to the greatest extent possible. Using established roadways to the greatest extent possible is the first criteria for the division-wide rezoning from the Suffolk Public School website. If you review map on page 3, you will see a close-up of the proposed school zone line that cuts through randomly and does not follow established roadway. Specifically, the proposed line cuts my property in half, with the front part of it being in Booker T. Washington and the rear in Pioneer School Zone. Currently, my house is only 2.5 miles from Pioneer Elementary, but it is approximately 12 miles away from Booker T. Washington and would be a 30 to 40-minute commute, depending on traffic, to take my children to that school. I agree that Booker T. Washington school zone could be expanded, but existing roadways should be used. If you look at the map on page 4 and page 5, you will see proposed school zone lines that use existing roadways. The first darker colored line uses US 13 as the dividing line, which would double Booker T. Washington school zone. Everything to the east would be Booker T. Washington, everything to the west would be Pioneer. If you wanted to expand it further west, the green line follows Manning Road to Mineral Spring Road and then ties back into US 13. And the red line is a third option that would add area onto where Manning Road and Mineral Springs Road combine. You would go west on Mineral Springs to Arthur Drive and then follow Arthur Drive to US 13. Map 5, the map on page 5 shows a close-up of the red line boundary. All these suggestions use established roadways for the dividing lines and create a defined boundary for the school zones. In my opinion, any of these 3 options would be better than the current proposed citywide rezoning option for these 2 school zones. My family's preferred rezoning option would be only the northern schools districts be rezoned, but I wanted to provide options to the school board to consider. I just didn't want to complain about something and not give you guys something to consider to fix the problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jennifer Davis.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Davis. I currently live at 5063 Mineral Spring Road in the city of Suffolk. I'm the mother of 6 children, 3 of which are currently enrolled at Pioneer in Forest Glen. I'm the current PTA president at Pioneer Elementary as well. To say that I'm troubled about the proposed citywide rezoning is an understatement. Let me begin by saying that I do understand that rezoning in some form needs to be addressed. I've also read and understand the consent order in place between the Department of Justice and the city of Suffolk. With that being said, I don't believe busing my child twice as far to school that is not currently accredited is fair to him, or fair to the numerous other families that this has the potential to impact as well. Personally, for our family, it does not make sense for my son to be 20 minutes away from our home when there's an elementary school that is 10 minutes away. It doesn't make sense to bus these children to opposite sides of the city, to meet quotas. It is a waste of time and resources. Busing my students to schools that are double the distance from my home and their activities also presents a huge problem. My students are all honor roll students. They rarely miss days of school and are involved in numerous activities from clubs to sports. The additional travel time is a hindrance to our family and will make it difficult to attend all of their activities and events that they are involved in. My children have grown up in this community. They play sports and have friends here. Rezoning stands to remove kids from the only school they have ever known. Consistency and security are important to students' emotional and academic success. I believe that uprooting these students will be extremely detrimental. This will not only have an effect on our students, but as a community as a whole. One of the primary reasons that people move to a certain community is because of the schools. My husband chooses to commute from Whaleville to Portsmouth, where he is a police officer, because we believe that our children would be afforded a better education here in Suffolk. Pioneer is our home, our family, and I implore you not to take that away from my children. Rezoning should only affect those that are currently in the school zones where the new school zones are being built. I myself have volunteered over 280 hours of my time to the school this year alone because I love our school, our teachers, and our students. If the citywide rezoning takes place, I will withdraw my child from the Suffolk Public School system, as I know many other parents are considering as well. Thank you for your time.
Heather Wiggins.
Good evening. My name is Heather Wiggins. I reside at 2778 Manning Road. I am a lifelong resident of Suffolk, Virginia, and a graduate of Suffolk Public Schools. Our youngest son is currently a kindergartner at Pioneer Elementary School. If the citywide rezone is approved, he will be moved to Booker T. When this information was made public, I put myself in the shoes of a family that is looking to relocate to Suffolk and needed to make a decision on where to live. If you compare Booker T and Pioneer using information found at the Department of Education and various school review websites, the results are astounding. Booker T was denied accreditation for the 27-2018 school year, a 20% difference in English and a 30% difference in mathematics compared to Pioneer. I also found that Booker T has a suspension rate of 16% versus the state average of 6%. In 2017, Booker T Washington Elementary ranked worse than 95.7% of elementary schools in Virginia, compared to Pioneer, which is ranked 65.5% better. If I were a new resident of Suffolk, why would I relocate to an area that was zoned for Booker T? Our number one priority for our children is that they receive the best education possible so they are able to excel and become positive contributors to their community and society, a community that I hope would remain Suffolk. Our oldest son is currently a 6th grader at Forest Glen Middle School. If the citywide rezone is approved, he would move to Kennedy. Again, a school that is not accredited and a school that has a suspension rate at 30% compared to the state average of 6%. More than double the students at Kennedy are being suspended annually than at Forest Glen. That sends up huge red flags as a parent for the safety of my child and the negative influences he could encounter. If the citywide rezone is approved, it will uproot hundreds of students across multiple schools. Not only will students travel across the city every day, but parents that rely on before and after care will now have to adjust schedules, if even possible, and commute multiple times across the city a day. Instead of uprooting students, shouldn't the focus be how do we improve these schools that are not up to par? How can we as a city believe the solution to making Booker T and John F. Kennedy better schools is to uproot hundreds of students? There is something fundamentally wrong with this solution. My expectation of this school board is a partnership with parents and schools that focuses on our children being provided the best education possible, and most importantly, to keep each and every student safe. And quite frankly, with the record these schools have, how can you promise a parent that their child is safe with a suspension rate that is 5 times the state average? The record shows that Suffolk Public Schools is failing the students at Booker T and Kennedy. I am beyond saddened and brokenhearted that the school division that I grew up in and have chosen to raise my children in could possibly force my hand to pull my children out. I cannot knowingly allow my children to attend schools that are experiencing the academic and disciplinary issues that Booker T and John F. Kennedy are.
30 seconds.
These kids are your priority. Please do not approve the citywide rezone.
Joel Newberry.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Joel Newberry. I live at 2841 Manning Road. I didn't bring anything to read. I just wanted to speak from the heart. My concerns are exactly the same as the previous speakers before me. The reason I purchased my house at 2841 Manning Road, one, I'm active duty military, and we moved down from Williamsburg to bring me a little bit closer to the base, but I could have chose many options, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, anywhere, but I chose to drive an hour to work because of the school system in southern Suffolk. I have 3 children that attend Pioneer Elementary and 1 child that attends Forest Glen, and I have a daughter that will be school age next year. I absolutely, positively will not allow my children to go to Booker T. Washington just because of the track record, and as the woman before me stated, safety of my children is number 1. It is my strong belief that if the rezoning takes effect, that my house will drop in property value based upon the track record of the schools that will be forced to go for my house. My house is a 5-bedroom house, and it's only going to be purchased by a family that has children, more than likely, and it will be very hard to sell my house based upon the track record of the school system that they'll be forced to go there. I'm active duty military, and I'm terrified that I'm going to be transferred and be forced to sell my house, and I'm worried that I'm going to be, 1, losing a lot of money, or 2, not be able to put a good family in that home. So I hope that the rezoning doesn't go through, and if it does, that it's only affected by the schools that are opening in northern Suffolk, and that the southern districts can remain the same, because I will have to be forced to pull my children out of Suffolk Public Schools. Thank you.
If you could hold your applause, please, to not take away time from speakers. Next speaker is Kent Adams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the school board. My name is Ken Adams, and I live at 5707 Indian Trail Road, the rural part of Suffolk. I'm writing this in concern of the proposed school zoning that has been discussed. I have filled out the survey on the Suffolk Public Schools website, but I thought I would share this with you all as well. I have 1 child that's been attending Pioneer Elementary for 3 years at this point, kindergarten through 2nd grade, and is still attending. I will have another child starting school there very soon. As it stands right now, the shortest route for my child to ride the bus and attend school is 4.1 miles. With the proposed zoning change, if approved, my child will be riding 12.1 miles on the bus to attend Elephant's Fork. This does not make sense to me. My child has grown and adapted very well with Pioneer and the staff there, and are very comfortable with the atmosphere of the school. Now we have a proposed change, and if it goes through, then my child has to readapt with the new surroundings and staff. So my question is, why mess up a good thing? I expressed my concern with this back when Pioneer was built and the zoning was in question then, and now I have to do it again. Each and every person that has moved to the city of Suffolk or has lived there all their life chose where they want to live. No one chose it for them. So why do our children need to be punished for that? There's a school right by their house, but since there are more people in one area of Suffolk, the zoning will change to make it work for everyone else. The proposed citywide zone change for the middle and high school, I feel like are okay, but there's some work there that needs to be done as well. But the proposed elementary school zoning, I do not agree with. I feel like there is more children living in the northern part of Suffolk than the zoning for those schools in question need to be looked at. I would like for you all to consider the children and their homes when the proposed zoning comes in question again at the next school board meeting. I know there are probably some other factors or things that need to be looked at as well, but I think a little common sense needs to be thought of as well. I know this is a proposed zoning change and it's not yet set in stone or agreed upon, and I understand that, but please consider what I have stated and all others have stated as well. Thank you for your time.
Linda Martin.
Hi, my name is Linda Martin, and I do not have a letter written out, but I want to speak from my heart.
Ma'am, your home address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, 6309 Vaughn Avenue in Suffolk, Virginia. I have one daughter that did attend Pioneer. When she was starting school, she was going to Robertson Elementary School. Robertson was closed, and our children for the Whaleville Borough were told that they would go to Pioneer. Pioneer is a wonderful school. My child has succeeded there, and now she is at Forest Glen. She is doing very well. I would really like to ask that they do not go with the proposed zoning change for our students. Thank you.
Dawn Matthews.
My name is Dawn Matthews, and I'm a resident of Manning Road, 2772 Manning Road. I currently have one child in kindergarten attending Pioneer Elementary School and one to come. If the current rezoning proposal passes, my son would be zoned to attend Booker T. Washington Elementary. I would like for you school board members to please vote against the proposed rezoning, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with you why. We love Pioneer. We love the proximity that we live in relation to Pioneer. We purchased our home because of the central location to our church, extended family, and our children's future elementary, middle, and high schools. Our commute to each of these is approximately 10 minutes. Our commute to Booker T would be right at 20 minutes or more, depending on traffic. Moving our child's school across town is going to take more time away from the time we have together as a family. We try very hard to be as involved as much as possible at Pioneer. One of the things that makes volunteering and involvement both easy and desirable is the distance it takes to travel there. We love the community environment that Pioneer provides. I love that at least a couple times a week my son brings home papers announcing activities that are going on at school that are not directly related to his classroom studies. When I think about being forced to take my son out of the loving and nurturing environment we have grown to adore at Pioneer, I am distraught. It makes me feel like my son is not important enough. I want to believe the motto of Suffolk Public Schools, where every child is a star. I don't want to think that the school administration is saying another child deserves to go to Pioneer over my children. I was born and raised in Suffolk, graduating salutatorian from Lakeland High School in 2001, and even holding court as the 2000 Peanut Fest Queen. My heart belongs to this city. My husband and I thoughtfully chose to live in Suffolk and to support the public school system as well. While on the search for our current home, we had to plan for our children's future, so we did our research on Suffolk schools. We wanted to live in a school zone with fully accredited schools from elementary to high school. As found on the website for the Virginia Department of Education, Pioneer is fully accredited and Booker T is not. The difference in the proficiency scores is dramatic. The disciplinary action rates dramatically higher at Booker T, and with their out-of-school suspension rate being 3 times higher than Pioneer's. In closing, I will quote our superintendent, Dr. Whitney, from the Suffolk Public Schools website. Parents are asked to become actively involved in their child's education. Parental involvement is key to the student's success. There are many parents and family members here tonight being actively involved in the future of their child's education. I ask that you take to heart the gravity of our concerns. I do not believe it is fair to force my child to attend a non-accredited school further away from home. Please put yourself in our shoes. Please think of how you would feel and how you would react if this was happening to your family.
I ask you board members to please not pass the current proposed rezoning. Thank you.
Brian Kinsey.
Brian Kinsey, 855 West Liberty Spring Road. I get teared up because I am a taxpayer in this city and a business owner in this city. A lot of my hard-earned money goes to this city and goes towards these schools. I donate money to the schools. I donate money for other things, sports and whatnot in this, for the school system. I have a daughter who is in her 4th year at Pioneer. Her first 2 years were an absolute struggle. And then we got the help that we needed from the schools and tutors, and my daughter has excelled through the roof, honor roll, when she was not even able to do that. I am afraid that if my daughter is pulled from Pioneer to Booker T, I'm going to be dealing with another shutdown from her. Her anxiety level is through the roof right now with the talk of the proposed rezoning. I just ask that y'all think about the kids and you think about the families. I believe in neighborhood schools. I see that my daughter lives in the neighborhood. She should go to the school in the neighborhood. My oldest daughter, she goes to Forest Glen. Great school, just as great as Pioneer. But I can tell you what makes those two schools the best: the people behind me, the parents that support and push for these schools to be great. Just ask, please keep in consideration the hardship you're going to put on families as far as getting kids to school, from school, kids riding the school bus 30 minutes extra than what they're used to, and then the whole factor of how much is it going to cost y'all to run a bus from Booker T, Washington, all the way back out to the western part of Suffolk, and bus drivers. Thank you.
Lisa McDonald.
Hi, I'm Lisa McDonald. I live at 3167 Arthur Drive. Thank you very much for letting us come in and speak tonight. I don't have anything written out, so I'm going to speak from my heart as well. I'm not from Suffolk. I've only lived here for about 3 years. I purposely chose to live in Suffolk because I wanted to give my boys a more country upbringing that their father experienced. We specifically chose our home based on the schools. I love Pioneer Elementary. It's a really good school. I grew up in Norfolk, and when I was in middle school, the same thing happened to me. Our neighborhood was divided, our community was divided, and I was on a bus every single day from around the Azalea Garden Road area, past 3 middle schools, to be bused all the way into downtown Norfolk to another middle school. I spent a tremendous amount of time commuting to and from school, which was absolutely unnecessary. And my community was divided. I lost friendships, church friends. My community, we are very close. We are a church family, we're a school family, we're a community family. My children's closest friends and church friends will now all be divided if this rezoning happens, and I just don't want that experience for my children, the same thing that happened to me. I do understand that a rezoning does need to happen in certain parts, and I understand that. And I do understand that there needs to be improvement to other schools, but moving the children around is not the solution. The amount of money that you will be spending to bus these children could be going directly into these schools to improve them, give the resources that the parents and the students need in order for all of the schools to be as successful as Pioneer Elementary. I want every child to go to a school as wonderful as Pioneer. I think we can make that happen, but I think there's other ways we can do that instead of moving children around, doing unnecessary commuting, and spending unnecessary money. Thank you.
Stacey Griffiths.
Good evening. My name is Stacey Curtis. My address is 1890 Cherry Grove Road. I stood here about 4 years ago when we went through this with Robertson and Pioneer. School board promised that Robertson kids would go to Pioneer. You zoned us for Booker T. We fought that because we're rural. Most people don't think about us way down in the state line area of Suffolk. You just figure, okay, well, we'll draw this line and we'll just shift it a little bit and it won't make a difference. But we rely on a lot of family and friends, church members to help us with our kids, to get them, because we have to drive into town for our jobs or even out of the city. That makes a big difference. Busing. My child goes to Pioneer now. He is on an IEP program, same as some of the other parents have talked about. Some of these kids struggle. Their teachers there have been wonderful getting them on track. My son has dyslexia, so anything that hinders him or changes his school academics affects him. So his teachers, from the time he started kindergarten there, have been wonderful. They've helped get him on track where he's actually passing and doing really well. If you take these kids out of this, and I know it has to be adjusted to some degree, our city's growing, but I would just prefer you just to do the northern part where you just built these 2 schools. We just went through this Pioneer adjustment, not only 4 years ago. It's growing way faster in northern Suffolk, so to me, just kind of work with that. I know that the minority rule is on your minds from the DOJ. I think there should be more input on who draws these lines. I don't know who does the drawing of the lines when y'all set up these zoning maps, but I think you should have more community input on where these lines are drawn. The first gentleman who spoke, he had some really good ideas. They don't always make sense. The ones that are there now, they seem like they were just randomly drawn. They don't really follow a set course of a road. I just really think there should be more input on where these lines are drawn. I know you have to have certain numbers in schools, understand that, but at the same time, you have to look at, where you're pulling these kids from, what they've already been through, just the community itself. You can't always go by the numbers, and I know that's easy for me to say standing on this side of the podium, but I would appreciate if you would just rezone the northern part of Suffolk, let our kids stay at Pioneer. I do have 2 daughters that are currently
20
at Forest
seconds.
Glen, and I'd like them to stay there too. They are on those transfer zone waivers so that they don't have to go to Kennedy due to the academics and the all-around dysfunction at that school. Thank you for your time.
Sharon Kriner.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Kriner, and I live at 3600 Leesville Road. 6.5 years ago, my son was born with craniofacial deformities. And as soon as that happened, my husband and I started looking at his future. Where do we want him to grow up? Where do we want him to live? When we moved back to Suffolk 5 years ago, my daughter attended Elephants Fork Elementary School for kindergarten, where she got in a fight at 5 years old. She was in danger of not being passed from kindergarten, and she came home multiple times in tears from just being bullied. We knew that that was not an environment we wanted our son to grow up in. So we chose to move to the country. We moved to Leesville Road so that Isaac could attend Pioneer Elementary School. At Pioneer, he's not experienced any bullying. He's not experienced any negative feelings. The teachers have been understanding and helpful and loving. It's a loving environment. When he went to Head Start, he was bullied at 4 years old. He had students ripping his hearing aids off of his head and throwing them away from him at 4 years old. It's not an environment I want him to move back to. Since they've been at Pioneer, my children have excelled. Additionally, as a teacher in this district, I would like to address the time change. I teach high school at Kings Fork High School. I teach chemistry. And I am concerned that with the time change, I will no longer be able to offer after-school tutoring because I will have to get home to my elementary school children. With the time change from 9:30 to 4, that puts me tutoring until 5, and I would not have time to commute to pick up my children at the other end of the city. If you want to model a successful school system with your time changes, I suggest you look to Virginia Beach. Their high schools start at 7:30, and all of their schools are accredited. Thank you.
Kim Moore. Kim Moore.
Hi, my name is Kimberly J Moore. I live at 3221 Jackson Road, Suffolk, Virginia. My son is a 4th grader at Pioneer Elementary School. I don't have anything prepared, but I would just please like to ask, as far as proposals go, please do not rezone Pioneer. My son started out early start at Southwestern Elementary School, and from that day he has thrived. I am a product of the Suffolk public school systems, and I have a great deal of altruism about all of the schools. Next year is his 5th grade year, and I really look forward to him graduating with his peers because there is a connection there. I know the children that I went to school with at Robertson Elementary. I see them, there's a connection that I graduated with at Lakeland High School. I'm just asking, please reconsider this proposal, and thank you so much for your time.
Emily Asbell.
Hi, I'm Emily Asbell. I live at 134 Whaley Street here in Suffolk, Virginia. I would hopefully, please do not rezone Pioneer. I have a 3rd grader. He is thriving. Sorry. We've come a long ways. He's had very many struggles, and if it hadn't been for Pioneer, I don't think he would have gotten the help he needed. Our oldest had social anxiety. He went to Southwestern and finished great. I actually got him into Forest Glen because we're zoned for Kennedy. I managed to get him into Forest Glen, and now he's welding. He's doing great. He is almost 20 years old. Our youngest is 9, and he is happy where he's at. And I hope you don't rezone him because he can't handle it. Thank you.
Maggie Fears.
Good evening. I'm Maggie Fears. I live at 2030 Regency Drive. I would like to echo the sentiments of all the parents that we've heard tonight. I think they bring great evidence to you regarding the difference in the schools. I'll bring a little bit different perspective because we're zoned at Nansemond Parkway right now. And with the total school rezoning, we would end up at unaccredited Mac Ben Elementary. The distance is negligible, I will admit that, compared to Pioneer to Booker T for some of those parents going from 4 to 12 miles. We are still technically closer to Nansemond Parkway. Our experience has been good at Nansemond Parkway, but I certainly would not be happy to move my children. I have a 4th grader and a 1st grader to Mac Ben Elementary. And further to that, my daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, who wasn't able to be here tonight due to gymnastics, mentioned to me, she said, "Mom, if I get transferred to Mac Ben, then I'm gonna lose a good chunk of my friends in my 4th grade year, going to a new school. And Mom, friends are what keep you from being a victim of bullying. Having those friends and that support group is what keeps the bullying at bay." And so I ask you to consider that as you're listening to these stories too. These children, all of them, have developed friendships, and we are already looking at being split apart because Nansemond Parkway goes to 2 separate middle schools. And so a good chunk of my daughter's friends, again, are going to be sent to Yates and will be sent to unaccredited JFK. And it's my understanding that waivers are few and far between to go to Yates from JFK. So I would ask you to look ahead, maybe even outside of Virginia. Great suggestion to look at what other schools have done. I know growing up in Texas that the Frisco school zone went through a huge growth period and had a lot of growing pains. And so potentially look to school zones who've gone through that, who have been the fastest growing city in the United States, and how did they deal with these growing pains, and consider those lessons that they learned as you look at your rezoning and your scheduling issues. Thank you.
James Jock, Jache.
Good evening, school board members. My name's James Jakey. Live on 337 Freeman Mill Road. Wanted to give some props to my previous speakers. They've kept their composure very well, as I hope I do too. This information that I found was very disturbing. One point that I want to make, my older son, he started out at Robertson, and he moved 3 schools, and we did not move once. He had to go to Robertson, then he went to Southwestern, and he went to Pioneer. And thankfully, we loved Robertson. It was a small school. You know, we walk into school, the teachers knew our names. Southwestern lended to be a little bit bigger school, but it was very good. The building, the facilities were not well because they were old, and we understood that, and that was fine. But we got to Pioneer, and Pioneer was a great school. The faculty was great. Some of them had moved from Robertson to Southwestern to Pioneer. So we've been very, very happy with the school district that we've been in. That's one of the reasons why we moved to that school district. My wife, she grew up in that same school district. She turned out pretty well. You know, I think some of the things that you've been trying to do over many, many years, I don't know how many years y'all have been in the school board, but I talked to a gentleman today that had been in the Suffolk Public Schools probably 25 or 30 years ago, and you've been trying to run the numbers and get the numbers right between desegregation and segregation. It hasn't worked so far. I mean, Booker T has 92% black kids. How are you going to get that within the spec without uprooting so many kids? And I'm not just saying my kid, but other kids. Now, you know, luckily, you know, if this happens, me and my wife have the means to send our kids to private school if we have to. But there are many, many people out there that don't. So I would implore you to consider that. Also, on the consistency side of things, you know, we talked about the 3 schools that we went to. This will be the 3rd time change. Let's just pick a time and stick with it and be done with it. So I appreciate your time, and good luck on your decision. Thank you.
Steve Ferguson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Ferguson. I live at 1300 Dutch Road. I just wanted to reiterate some of the points that have been brought up already. And it's more pointed toward the citywide rezoning. I think was the more irregular shaped rezoning that I saw. While it does not affect me directly, it comes pretty close. I was pretty shocked at how close it comes to the end of Dutch Road and the stretch that occurs for those families immediately to travel the distance they would have to travel. You know, I'm clearly in favor of a neighborhood school, community school. Schools, I think, live or die based on the family involvement, period. You know, good staff, that's up to you guys to hire a good staff. Family involvement is key to any school and the success of that school. So, you know, uprooting some of these families to go to a different school, the logistics of it, not only just the inconvenience, but to some of the people to having, to make that change. Nobody necessarily wants to do that. We understand that. Rezoning is understandable when you build a new school, population increase, what have you. It does seem with the citywide rezoning, it's trying to chase the stats put forth by the federal government, trying to better diversify the school to match the population of the city. While I hope that's just a goal, and I don't think there's any way for the city to attain that. Again, the citywide rezoning just is irregular, and I think it'll limit the ability for some families in the communities, some who transportation's an issue, whether they rely on their own or public transportation or within walking distance. That citywide rezoning line was just it's splitting up neighborhoods in very close proximity to schools that are immediately adjacent. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. And so I would hope that you guys would take that one under consideration, and that the family involvement's critical. I think it's going to hinder family involvement in those schools. And if those schools, any school having a problem, it's more likely based on staff retention and family involvement, and those two reflect each other. I mean, families are involved. It's a better environment for the students and staff. So if you're having staff issues, then it's probably reflected of that as well. So I just hope you would take that under advisement for the logistics of it for the families. Thank you.
Loretta Mayo.
To the members of the Suffolk School Board and to all assembled, good evening. My name is Loretta Williams Mayo. I reside at 9396 New Roads in the southern part of Suffolk, Virginia. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you in regard to the rezoning plan for Suffolk Public Schools. I am appearing before you as a concerned citizen and as a taxpayer and retired educator of Suffolk Public Schools. You are commended for supporting the construction of new schools in the northern area of our city. The new Florence Bowser Elementary School and Colonel Fred Cherry Middle School will help to alleviate some of the overcrowding and help to decrease the school population at John Yates Middle and Creekside Elementary. However, the rezoning of schools should focus on the northern area of Suffolk to determine who will attend the new schools. The remainder of the schools should not be considered for rezoning. It appears that our students, parents, and community stakeholders are pleased with the current school zones for the other schools. The goal should be to provide the necessary resources, financial support, and adequate personnel and facilities to make our schools equitable for all students. Removing students from the current schools, with the exception of those that are affected by the new construction, and busing children for long periods of time and or long distances are detrimental to the success of the school system. There is a sense of community, relationships have been established, and parents are comfortable with the schools that their children attend, and it is evident tonight in what we've heard from these parents. Our city is unique as our citizens can experience a variety of settings in which they choose to live, whether it is urban, suburban, or rural. Please focus on rezoning only for the new schools in the northern area of the city of Suffolk. Thank you for your attention and for your consideration in this matter.
Nicole Madison.
Hi, my name is Nicole Madison. I live at 1960 Cherry Grove Road, Suffolk, Virginia. I was here 4 years ago to get my children to be able to go to Pioneer because y'all wanted to bus them to Booker T. I will personally take my kids out of the school system in Suffolk and put them in private school before I allow them to go to Booker T. It is not a good school. They have failing credits and everything. I don't understand why you want to take my children away from all their friends. I have 2 kids that go to Pioneer. I don't feel it's fair to them nor their friends to take them away from them and make them go to Booker T. If I wanted my kids to go to Booker T, I would live in downtown Suffolk. I live in the country for a reason. We have a community, we hang around, we stay tight-knit. You want to just up and uproot everything, and I don't understand why. Thank you.
Michael Modesitt, Modesitt? Modesitt? Modesitt.
I got one kid in Pioneer right now.
Your address, please.
2620 Freeman Mill Road, Michael Modesitt. I got one kid in Pioneer right now. I got two right behind her. I just don't know how you guys think is right. You take all the names out and everything like that. I'm not very well educated, all right? But when you say credited school and not credited school, where do you want to send your kids to? Right off the bat, it's accredited. Not to mention booking them halfway across the city. My kid already gets home at 4:45. Whether you change the times or not, it's not going to help the situation. I wake up at 3 o'clock every morning to go up to work. I do that to make sure I'm home to pick up my kid from the school bus. My wife works down at the jail, works 12-hour shifts as a nurse. There is no way that if you change the routes to send them to the other schools, that we're going to be home in time. Luckily for us, I have very good in-laws that live right next door that will pick them up. But I am blessed with that. A lot of other people aren't. I'm not as smart as some of the people back here with all the stats and everything like that. But it just doesn't make sense. There's got to be a better way. I believe everybody deserves to be in an accredited school and everything like that, but I think our focus should be on making sure that those kids get into it or accredited school, up the standards in their schools and everything like that. Booking my kid over to another school is not helping my kid whatsoever. Thank you.
Ann Mayfield.
Good evening. My name is Ann Mayfield. I live at 126 Woodlake Terrace. I don't have anything prepared, but I do want to plead with you guys to please not rezone our children. I have a child at JFK currently, which I'm not very happy about because it's not accredited. We've had several problems there. My daughter is in second grade at Nansman Elementary and will be zoned for Mac Ben if this happens, which is also a not accredited school. We're a military family that was placed here. We chose to live in Suffolk because of the diversity. I understand that you guys want to diversify the schools, but I just don't see how it's going to even happen. We are very close to Nansman. My daughter's been here since kindergarten. We don't plan on moving. My husband will be retiring here. We want to send our kids to accredited schools, and it's not fair that they will have to go to places where they will be less educated, and bullied. Also, we've had several issues with JFK. Also, with Nansman, our kids get split. Some go to Yates and some go to JFK. Why can't the kids from Nansman all go to Yates? It just makes more sense, as well as Nansman High. They are all in close proximity to Nansman High. It makes no sense to bus them so far to Kings Fork High. I guess I'm just a very concerned parent, and I want to have my kids' voices heard as well. My son has also made it known that he really, really wants to go to Yates with his friends. Where we are in the neighborhood, we're at Woodlake on the corner of Wilroy and Nansman. Where we're at is it's so much closer. It makes more sense for where we're at, where we work, and Unfortunately, our city, I don't even know how to, I'm sorry. Our city is very diversified, which is, the reason we did move here. But there's a point, kids grow up different ways in different parts of the city. I just want to make sure that our kids go to a good school with other kids as well, that will have a better education as well. You're also bringing our house prices down with a new rezoning, which is a big issue. So I just want to make our voices heard. Thank you.
Francis Jones.
Francis Jones, 3248 Arthur Drive. I moved here 40 years ago. And I moved here because growing up, I was shifted around from place to place, and I wanted my kids to be in one community, one school, all their friends, and that's where I wanted them. I was very fortunate that there was, no rezoning. At that time, my kids went to Holland, Southwestern, Lakeland, did great. And now I have grandchildren, and my grandchildren at Pioneer. And if anybody ever knew Holland Elementary, Pioneer reminds me of that. Holland was a great school, Pioneer is exceptional. And I'm really disturbed, as you can tell, because to see my grandchildren have to be bused downtown, they are 8 miles from their school now. They'd be 18 miles to Booker T. I, with everyone else, cannot understand this. Why can't we leave, the community where they are? They are in a rural community. They chose to live there. And this is where I want them to grow up. And I appreciate it if you reconsider your rezoning. Thank you.
Lindsay Darden.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Darden. I live at 4100 Manning Road, but I'm also speaking for a couple other families who live around us, which have literally just built their home because of the school district for Pioneer. One of our children has a medical disorder. He cannot break a bone or he is done for. He will be in a wheelchair. And I have personally worked for public schools since 2007, and the schools that y'all want to send my little kids to, instead of sending them to Pioneer, you want to send them completely across town when we are literally 6 minutes from school now. One, I don't understand financially how that is going to be smarter. And also, the 3rd, 4th, 5th graders at Pioneer, they're the reason the schools are accredited. It's not because the parents did it. The parents helped the children, yes, but it's the children who made that school accredited. So why are you going to punish them and send them to a school that's not accredited? If you want the other schools accredited, figure out what's wrong. Work with the teachers. Get the parents to come over there, because I was on PTA for Southwestern, Pioneer. I worked at the Booker T. I even went and worked at JFK and John Yates, Nansen River, everywhere. And I personally, I've already pulled my daughter from Suffolk Public Schools, one, because of the matter. So with all of my other children, them going to the schools clear across town instead of 5-6 minutes up the road, I can't get to them if there's an emergency. If one of the parents their kid has the flu, who's going to go get the child clear across town if the mom doesn't have a vehicle? Y'all don't think for the children. You're not looking through the kids' eyes. You're breaking up their friendships. You're breaking up their study groups. You're breaking up their communities that they're building. And it's not right, and I don't think it's fair for our kids to suffer for something that really, the way y'all have everything now, no one understands. Everyone before me has even said that no one understands how everything is rezoned now. So why should the southern schools pay for the northern schools?
30 seconds.
Rezone the northern schools and leave us alone. We've been in here fighting numerous times for different schools. But if you have a problem with your northern schools, fix your northern schools. Right now, southern schools are doing good. We're accredited, our kids are good, and our expulsion rate is low. Our discipline rate is low. Thank you for your time.
Amanda Pautte, Pautte.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Pacino. I live at 201 Bird Street in Suffolk, Virginia. Unlike some of the folks that have spoken here tonight, we are not residents of Suffolk. We are a military family, and we've been transplanted here due to my husband's career. I'm nervous, I'm sorry. We love Suffolk. We were very blessed with the house that we purchased, and we are zoned for Kilby Shores. Unlike some other families, military families, they need to have that constant for their children. And right now, I provide that for them as well as school. My daughter was in the Early Start program last year at Pioneer, and we are now back at Kilby. The experience that she had tore her up. She lost the light of her eyes for school, and she was 5. Today is her birthday. She turned 6 today. And she loves school again. It took the principal at Kilby Shores to pull her back out and get her with the correct teacher, to now have to take her to another school, and unlike some other families here tonight, we would be rezoned for Pioneer, so it's another accredited school, so I don't have that battle against that situation, but to go from 2 miles from our house to Kilby, to then travel 13 miles back to Pioneer, it's a lot for families, especially families that may have one vehicle, multiple children, military families where, again, school will serve as a constant for those kids who have parents that leave, and you want to uproot them. Again, the military does that enough. Just looking at my notes. For us, when we moved here, we were unaware of accreditation issues. We are from Boston locally, where education is very good, and we don't have unaccredited schools up there. So for us to come here and learn about that, it was something different for us, and we really would urge you to please leave the zoning the way it is and rezone Northern Suffolk. Thank you.
Robert Fink.
My name's Robert Fink. I live at 3521 Leesville Road. I was in the Navy for 22 years. I was in Vietnam, still up the Desert Shield. And when you're overseas in a not nice place, the last thing you need to worry about is your kids going to some school that you didn't sign them up for. When the military moves, they always send their wives first to find a good school to go to. And you buy a house there and you go there and stay. Doing this here, you're going to stress out a lot of military people. When the military people are stressed out, they might have a problem. Okay? You guys need to really think about this, because you have got a buttload of people in the military in your school zones. All I got. Once you think about what you're doing, and watch the news, you see people dying after you do this, think about it.
Christy Willis.
Good evening. My name's Christy Willis. I live at 1776 Millwood Way.
I have 3 children, one who successfully completed his elementary school years at Nansman Parkway. I have 2 other children who are currently attending Nansman Parkway. They are both thriving and have made many friends and relationships with the staff and teachers, as have I. I volunteer at both schools. My oldest goes to JFK, not my preference. Just as a side from what I wrote, I tried the waiver process to get my son to go to Yates with all his friends, with his Boy Scout friends, with his church friends, but was denied, and even with lots of documentation. So I know that that's tough to get kids to go to Yates because they're overcrowded. But I'll say I volunteer at both schools, which is Nansman Parkway and JFK, and quite a bit at Nansman Parkway, and I stay involved even with working full-time for the military. Nansman Parkway's been our children's home for 7 years now. My 7-year-old daughter cried when I told her there was talk about her having to go to a different elementary school. My middle child will also be entering his 5th grade year and was also upset at the thought of having to change elementary schools during his last year. I do not want my children uprooted from their current school and have to attend Mac Ben, which is unaccredited. I agree with all of the others that have spoken before me and urge the school board to vote against the proposed rezoning. Please leave the zoning alone. My kids are happy and successful where they are. Thank you.
Alexandra Maso.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alexandra Manso. My address is 481 Westwood Drive, Suffolk. I am a mother of 3. 2 of my children go to Pioneer Elementary. They have been there for 3 years already. Both of my children that go to Pioneer are principal-less students. They already know the school system, the teachers, and they have friends. Taking them now to Booker T, and where the achievement rates and test scores are not challenging them to keep their hard work worries me. As you can hear me, I have an accent, a big bad accent that I'm trying to get rid of, but I can't. We are minority, and that also worries me because I have been discriminated because of it. I don't want that experience for my children. I am begging you to please don't do the rezoning. And if you do it because you at the end you decided to do it, please at least allow the children that already start in Pioneer to finish their 5th grade there. Thank you for that opportunity. Thank you.
Michael Harris.
Hello, my name is Michael Harris. I reside at 2471 Box Elder Road. All I just really have to say about this whole thing is being from out of state, from Boston also, I had a choice to live anywhere in Virginia, and I chose to come to Suffolk out of all the cities. Along with that, the new school that was being built, which was Pioneer, I only lived 3 miles from it. 3 miles, and the line ends at Box Elder stop sign. The way you sent, whoever made this line and how it went out and came about, somebody had the really good idea to go ahead and do a pyramid scheme coming off there, which covers a lot of military families and a lot of families who live around here. They live just 3 miles away and taking a 4-minute drive, and then to travel approximately 20 to 25 miles from where we're at seems ridiculous, along with all the money extra y'all are gonna have to pay for the buses and the time. The time alone is enough. My wife's disabled, and for her to go and do anything extra puts a lot of more strain along with her disability. That's all I got to say.
Michelle Gilmore. Amy Ford.
Good evening, everyone. This is a mess.
Ma'am, your address?
My name is Amy Ford, and I live at 912 MacArthur Drive. This is not my first time standing in front of you, and I doubt it will be my last. I'd like to introduce myself as the pebble in your shoe. I know this is a really difficult situation to deal with. I've heard lots of the word fair thrown around, and that's the word I would love to talk to you about. The reason that we are all here tonight talking about what is fair and what is unfair dates all the way back to the beginning of our country, where unfairly people were brought here without their consent to work to build this country. And unfortunately, that unfairness continues today. The relic of slavery is segregation. It has been 60 years, more than 60 years, since Brown versus Board of Education said that segregation is unfair. As our Bible tells us, the sins of the fathers are visited on our children, and we're looking at that visitation today. We have a mess because if we try to fix our segregation problem, we upset all of these children who are having fun with their friends in the schools where they've been forever, fat, dumb, and happy, not knowing that our schools are 60 years out of compliance with the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment did not make the relics of slavery illegal. The 14th Amendment did not make unfairness happen. It was always unfair. It continues to be unfair. It will continue to be unfair. Someone will be unhappy, no matter what decision you make. But I'm asking, as the granddaughter of a woman who will be 100 years old this year, who was one of the very first teachers to desegregate our schools in Virginia, I'm asking as her granddaughter that you look at whatever you have to do to take this relic away from us, to change the way that we see each other as neighbors, to change the way that we see each other as students, teachers, and friends, and to make it possible for us to not only go to school together, but to perhaps lay some of this at the feet of our city council, who continues to make it impossible for us to desegregate our communities and therefore our schools. I thank you for whatever decision you make, and I hope that if you would like some more information on the history that I have on this particular subject, that you would contact me so that we can talk about this further. Thank you.
Kyle Gilbertson.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Gilbertson, and I live in 888 Freeman Mill Road, and I'm here to speak on behalf of my son. We went from Booker T to Pioneer, where we got out of the Booker T school because he was being bullied, because of the way he looked, because he had freckles. He didn't want to go to school. It was a fight every day. He didn't make good grades. Once we moved to Pioneer, everything changed. I had my son back. He has honor roll every 9 weeks. He wants to go to school. So I'm asking for his behalf. Don't rezone. On the way to his grandmother's house, I asked, we were talking, what school do you want to go to? Do you want to go back to Booker T? No. No, he doesn't want to go back to Booker T. He has friends at Pioneer. I asked him, what school do you want to go to? He's starting 6th grade next year. And I know he'll go to middle school. He's supposed to go to Forest Glen. Y'all going to have him go to JFK if y'all rezone. I'm not happy with JFK either. I love Forest Glen. I went through Forest Glen. So he wants to go to the best school. This is what he wants. This is an 11-year-old child that wants to go to the best school. And as my opinion right now, Forest Glen is the best school. So please don't change the rezoning. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers who have not signed up?
Trillion. I reside at 1289 Little Fork Road. And I just want to say that I agree with everybody here. If you are going to rezone, I think you should rezone for the northern section only where the 2 new schools are being built. I do not believe that this should impact the southern part of the city of Suffolk. And I also want to let the people in the audience here know that thank you to Ted Cruz. You can now use your Virginia 529 for private school education. So if they do go through with the southern rezoning, you can now use that to take your kids and pay for them for their private school education. So consider that. And I also would like to ask why I had to find out about this on social media through Facebook. My kids come home with notifications from school for just about everything under the sun, but when it came to something as important as this, I had to find out on Facebook. I got no notification from the schools, I got no call, nothing. I think next time you have something this important for the parents that affects all of this community, you should make more effort to notify the parents, because I think if more effort had been made, there would be a lot more people here standing up today. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Did you want to speak at the back?
Hello, my name is Pamela Cirilli. I live at 3586 Indian Trail. My grandson is in my custody and he goes to Pioneer. He loves it there. His first year of school was at Elephant's Fork, and his education suffered due to things that are just completely out of control as far as we're concerned. But then he went to Pioneer and his education began to improve. And last year he was on honor roll the entire year. He feels that his attendance is extremely important, and he feels that his homework is very important, and I'm very proud of him. And with this rezoning, you're talking about taking him out of the school that he likes. He's in the 4th grade, so he just has one more year after this to go to Pioneer, and I would really love it if he would continue at Pioneer. In discussing busing with other parents today, they said they would love to, send their children to certain schools, but it's so far. If their child gets sick and they need to go and pick them up, it's a long way for them to have to drive. Or if they miss the bus, the same thing is there. And as many parents have mentioned, a lot of households only have one car, or they have an individual who just cannot drive for some reason. So I would like that to be taken into consideration in making this decision. Thank you very much for your time, and y'all have a good evening.
There are no further speakers at this time.
Mike Garrison. I live at 5972 Indian Trail. I moved here, bought two pieces of property last year just for the school system, just for the zoning where it was at. My son goes to Pioneer Elementary. He's doing excellent. The school system is great. I think what you heard tonight, a lot of it is the school system, the schools itself. Everybody talks about they wanted them kids to go to Pioneer. I mean, it speaks for itself. Obviously, there's problems at all these other schools that you're having. Pioneer is a great school. Did we handpick teachers and certain people to go certain places to have a certain great school? I mean, you talk about busing, you're talking about sending him. We live 5 minutes from Pioneer. Now you're talking about sending him to all the way across town. I mean, there's times right now it's a busing issue. There's a busing issue as well. Not alone the school issue. My son, he usually gets out of school. He's home 5 minutes, 10 minutes after school. There's times he's on a school bus for over an hour and a half. I'm waiting. I have to cancel his soccer because he don't get home till 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock when he gets out of school at 3:50. That's outrageous. All these other kids are going to be going all the way across town. We already got a busing issue, not alone a school issue. So obviously you hear it from everybody else. I'm concerned about my kids like everybody else is concerned about their children. Take care of the schools. All this lottery money, where is it going to the schools? Is it going in the pockets? Is it not going into the school system where it's supposed to be? Transportation, our roads. We can't even get our kids to school for a freaking couple days because of nobody's taking care of the roads. So anyway, just look at it. It's the school system. We got busing issues. We got pay issues. The bus driver told me nobody wants to come to work because of the pay. So we got a lot of issues going on that, that y'all making decisions need to address. Thanks.
There are no further speakers. Mr. Copeland.
Got it back there.
I saw another hand.
Hi, I'm Deb McIntosh. My address is 4020 Pruden Boulevard. I do not have any school-age kids, but both of mine went through Suffolk Public Schools and are very successful now. Hooray. I'm a teacher at Elephants Fork. I used to be a teacher at Mount Zion. So Pioneer parents, I can totally empathize with you when the school shuts down, like Robertson, Southwestern, or your child is being rezoned. It's a concern because our kids at Mount Zion had to be broken up. I understand how they feel, but I also know that we did not rezone big time when we closed all those schools years ago. We did not rezone when we opened Hill Point. I know we have 13 mobiles at my school, and we have become partially accredited because we have worked hard. And I do agree with the family involvement. That is very important, and it makes the school, and sometimes going with the neighborhood school thing, it makes it easier for the families to be involved, and you have more family engagement, and that is critical. So I see the point in that, and I thank you for all your hard work, because I know this is really hard for you all to come up with something that's the best for everybody. the kids, the families, the community, and the schools. So I thank you for your time and effort considering all the things. Thank you.
We do thank all of you who have come this evening now. We appreciate listening at your concerns. We will take it under advisement, and I like to just say this is a proposal. This is nothing in stone, so we like you to know that. So at this time, we will adjourn this part of our agenda.